travelers, my seekers, my wanderers. We're back again today. And today we're talking about self-love. We're talking about how to get there. We're talking about how to figure out how to get back up when everything inside you wants to stay down on your knees. How we're talking about how you feel like you've exceeded every outlet, like no one understands, like you're just alone and nobody can feel you, and you just feel crazy and outside of society because it seems like you're the only one going through something. I promise you guys, you're not. People just have it masked. If you have it masked, you have to assume that the next person does too, you know? So, how do you find yourself? Ironically, to find yourself, you have to get completely lost. I'm sorry to say it, but like this self-healing spirituality thing, it's not beautiful. It's not like walking in the park every day and like just seeing the butterflies and like, you know, just being grateful. You know, that's what comes after. It's a whole journey. It's a whole process. You can't plant a seed and expect to go outside the next day and there be a plant there, right? So you have to get lost to be found. So the first thing you want to do is you want to dig. You want to dig and dig and dig. You want to weed out all of those things that aren't supposed to be there. You know, you want to, and then after that, you want to go even deeper. You have to figure out what is resonating deep down inside of you that is keeping you unhappy. It's easy to look at the situation, right? It's easy to look at the situation, right? So say you wake up and you're not feeling good and your mom asks you what's wrong. To look at the situation, you say, okay, well, I'm tired, my stomach hurts, my head hurts, right? You're looking at what's blatantly wrong. But what happens if you get deep, right? What happens if you're getting sick because you're so emotionally unstable that your body can't keep up with everything that's going on? What happens if you've been beating up yourself so much that you've been manifesting this sickness, manifesting this disease, believing so badly that there's something wrong with you when there's not, that your body creates something wrong, right? Have you ever believed something so strongly that you didn't want to be wrong, so you did whatever that you could in your power to make it come true? Even if you didn't want it to come true, you just didn't want to be wrong, right? That's digging deep. That's accepting the fact that you may be in the situation because of you, you know. And when you dig, this is the hardest step for people. The first step is the hardest step because when you dig, you start to realize that you have a lot of fault in what's going on in your life, right? You start to realize that you're not perfect yourself. You start to realize that maybe, okay, I need to take some responsibility in what's going on, right? You take yourself out of the victim role, right? Because if you stay victimized, nothing's ever going to come for you. Nothing's ever going to be working for you when you play victim. Because what happens when you play victim? You start relying on everybody else to be your muse. So why would things be happening for you when you're relying on everybody else? Those things are just going to happen for everybody else. That's why digging deep is so hard. But it's so empowering because it's like you're owning yourself, you're owning your life, you're owning your thoughts, your faults, you're owning your mistakes, so that when you get to the place to succeed, you can own that too, right? And with the consistency creates credibility. That's what we talked about in our root chakra healing, right? Balancing light. So the next thing you want to do is you have to isolate. You have to isolate. You have to diet. You know, dieting is not just what you eat. Dieting is what you listen to, what you surround yourself around, the thoughts that you have. Isolate yourself. Isolate yourself from anything that makes you think less about yourself. If that means that you have to delete every social media you have, or you have to go and unfollow people that make you think twice about who you are or make you feel less, do it. Do it, right? So that so it can be you can use it as a test. So when you heal, you know. So those songs that you used to listen to that make you cry, when you listen to them now, it empowers you because you don't feel that way anymore, but you remember when you did. That's how you know when you're healing. So you have to isolate. Take yourself out of the mass of it so you can really see what's going on, right? Again, going back to that balancing light, first episode, root chakra. You build a house, and when it gets too loud and you can't hear anything, you have to take a step back. Take yourself outside of it. Next, you're gonna have to ache. It's gonna hurt. because you're dealing with being alone, right? You have to learn to be alone. You can't just like wake up one day and be alone, because we have been taught our whole lives to be around people. We're always around people. We're always around people, always thinking that we need to be around people, but understand, like, what's the point of being around people if they're not benefiting us and you're not benefiting them? If there's not an equal exchange of vibrational frequency on a high rate, what is the point? There's not, because it's only keeping you held back. It's only keeping you down. It's only keeping them down, right? It's only keeping society held back in a whole. It's bigger than just you and me, right? So you have to ache. You're gonna feel the pain of being alone. You're gonna feel the pain of judging yourself. But when you judge, you find acceptance because you realize why you did what you did. And once you can make all those connections, it's easier to deal with other people, because when you can see why you have acted in ways that you feel badly about, or that just wasn't you, like you regret, you can see it in other people, why they're acting the way they're acting. It grows compassion, it grows empathy, it grows self-love. Because if you can accept you and you can accept everybody else, you'll start to realize the people you attract will accept you. Because you're accepting them, they're just accepting people. What you place yourself on the frequency of, you will attract. So the next thing is you have to accept. You have to accept who you are. You have to accept what you've done. Even if it's bad, you have to accept everything that comes, because you are the creator of your own world. You are the master creator, because you are part of the divine source. You are a part of the divine being. Again, episode one, you are a part of the whole source, right? So you have to accept that everything you want, everything you are, everything you desire is already you, is already yours. You just have to place yourself on the right frequency to be that, to be there. That's the beauty in it, right? So you accept the bad so that you can get the good, right? You're aware of your faults, but you're aware of it in correlation of circumstance. So you realize that you're only human, and at the end of the day, you make mistakes. You may have lived your life for you and got selfish, but that's okay, because when you're accepting of it, when you start to do it, you pull yourself out before you go 100%. When you start to do things or say things or act in ways that you don't want to anymore, once you accept all the things that you've done, you can make that connection as soon as situations arise to make the right choice. And when you're making the right choice consistently, it creates credibility. And not just credibility to everybody around it, it creates credibility in self, right? You start making all the right decisions, well, you start to trust yourself again. You start to love yourself again. You start to believe in yourself again. You start to take back all the power that you've given out to the world, questioning who you are, questioning your abilities, questioning what you deserve. And finally, after all this, you'll end up looking in the mirror and seeing God, right? Because you are of Him. You are of Source. You'll start seeing the power. So, you are enough. Knowing that testing of your faith produces endurance. It produces endurance because the more faith you have in yourself, the more faith you have in life, you realize that things will start working for you. They'll start working for your circumstance, and they won't be going against you anymore, right? And you'll start to realize that you'll be put on repeat over and over and over in a different situation, but same circumstance, until you learn from it. And then you can move on. So that faith produces endurance for you to keep on going through those hard times, because you know you're going to make it through. You know you're going to see the whole picture eventually. You know you're going to understand it all eventually. That's the faith in it. Trusting that you are going to get it. That again, one day you will love yourself. You will be in that state of all attracting on a high vibrational field. So it also says in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 16, so we have stopped evaluating others from a human point of view At one time, we thought of Christ merely from a human point of view. How differently we know him now. That's what I was saying about once you can correlate your faults with why you've done it and why why you can justify them and why it was only because you were in the wrong state of mind, right? When you can take the ego out of it and put compassion and empathy into it, how differently we'll know the world. How differently we'll know him. How differently we will know the world now. Imagine if you looked at everything with compassion and understanding, how differently you would understand the world. Next, you have 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 17. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old has gone. The new is here. Once you accept him into your life, right? Once you accept source, once you accept the understanding that all things are within your reach of creation because they're in one source and you are a part of that source. Once you understand Christ, right? The old has gone and the new is here. You can't go back once you understand this. You can have bad days, yeah, you can fall off for a few hours, but you can't go back. You can't. So the practice that we do not dare to classify or compare ourselves with some who commend themselves. When they measure themselves by themselves and compare themselves with themselves, they are not wise. Right? If you're comparing only from yourself and what you would do instead of the broad picture, right? Making those correlations, thinking with compassion, empathy, thinking like, oh, well, literally putting yourself in their shoes. Well, what could they be going through? What could they have experienced that caused them to feel like that, right? You're using what you've seen in the world, what you've seen people experience rather than just what you've experienced, right? And that is 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 12. Speak words with a heartbeat. You have to speak things that mean something. You have to speak with love, right? You have to speak with meaning. So the practice I have for you to go with is to create a garden within yourself. Your soil is going to be self. So first you have to take that step of loving yourself and trusting yourself and having faith that you can even grow or create in the first place, right? Your seed will be your ideas and your desires, the things that you want most in life. Your water will be your intentions and your thoughts. What are your intentions of having these desires? What is the reasoning as to why you want them, right? And then the sun will be the feeling. What do you feel when you're thinking about these things? What do you see when you close your eyes? What are you hearing, right? What are you feeling in your heart? Like, what is the true meaning deep down inside that you feel you desire these things? And you take that feeling and you watch it grow inside of you, right? And this alone will teach you what you want from what you really need. It will teach you a whole lesson in itself. Humanity, take a good look at yourself inside. You got a heaven and an earth and all of creation in a world. Everything is hidden in you. All the secrets are inside. You have to trust that. You know, I've had days where I didn't want to ever have to get up. I've had days where I felt my son would be better if I wasn't a part of this world. Like if I wasn't here, that somehow, you know, things would be more balanced. I felt like I was a burden. I felt like I wasn't enough. I felt like nothing inside of me was tough. I felt like that my fight, nobody was watching it, nobody cared. And then I started to question the war that I was in, if it was even worth it, if it was even relevant, right? So that drove me crazy. Made me think that, you know, maybe I am a little nuts. You know, it made me question, do I even belong here, right? But then I had to take myself out of it. I had to take back the power that people took from me with all the words that they took me down with, you know, all the situations. I stopped playing victim to it. And I looked at it in this whole way. And I healed myself. But I was you. I was that girl who spent days on end crying, wondering why I'm not enough, feeling bad about myself, looking in the mirror saying, what are you doing? Looking down on myself. I was there. But now, I spend every day in my garden, and I watch everything grow. If you guys would like to see a video more in depth about how to tune into your garden and how to create from it, let me know in the comments below. Subscribe. One love. Thanks for stopping by.